Why does everybody hate the Jordan 2 so much? I am not much of a sneakerhead, and so when I saw this and I look at compared to the Jordan 1, I'm like, they look similar enough, and everyone loves these and everyone hates these. So what is it about these shoes that everyone hates? Is it the construction? Is it the leather quality? Is it the way it looks? Well, we bought a pair to cut in half to really find out the truth of what's inside of this thing and to see why people hate the Jordan 2 so much. Have you ever wanted a high quality AAA game with great graphics and cool characters that you can take with you on your phone? Well, this video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Explore millions of champion combinations and master countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign battles, and PvP arena matches. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 600 champions blessed with unique skills, you can build your team, develop your champions, and raid your way. Use my QR code or the links below to download Raid yourself to your mobile phone or PC. And there's a special Deliana Chase event happening in Raid right now, where new and existing players can get their hands on the amazing Deliana, a brand new legendary champion from the High Elves faction. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and July 28th. All new players, once you're in game, just enter the promo code MyDeliana to get 50 XP brews to max out your legendary hero to level 50, as well as tons of silver. Promo code is available now until July 20th. They're bringing out 5 badass looking new champions. They're overhauling the champion vault, and they've got a load of awesome smaller updates as well. Raid's running a huge series of summer splash events the whole month where you can get your hands on some incredible skins for everyone's favorite dwarf, Trunda Giltmelon. My favorite champion is the Sky Touch Shaman with a unique healing passive and a great defense against debuffs. Also, I'm a huge fan of Tatra Rhymehide, who is great against Hydras and bosses from the Doom Tower and Dungeon. Use my link or scan the QR code right here. New players will get their free starter pack worth almost $30 to kickstart your game. We're talking the free champion Verges, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in the game. You'll find the rewards at the inbox here for the next 30 days only, and thanks again to Raid for sponsoring this video. So to give you a quick, short and condensed 60-second history lesson on the Jordan 2, we'll start with the Jordan 1 that was released in 1985. But it didn't sell as well as Nike wanted it to, and it wasn't Jordan's favorite shoe, but he did like the fact that it was fairly slim underneath the forefoot. It was more similar to the shoes he liked playing basketball in from his college years in the Converse and Adidas. So when it came time to designing the Jordan 2, Peter Moore, who designed the Dunks and the Air Jordan 1s, and Bruce Kilgore, who designed the Air Force 1, went to work on the Jordan 2, and the idea of the sneaker was to be a more comfortable basketball sneaker, sold at a higher price point with higher materials and a premium construction. And from the outside, it looked like it was a sneaker more designed for the consumer rather than the athletes using the shoe. And so when they released the Jordan 2 in 1986, it didn't do very well. It didn't sell nearly as well as Nike wanted it to, partly I think because of the price of it, partly because of the way they looked, and because Jordan didn't really play in the Jordan 2s because he had a broken foot. So it just didn't sell well, and because of the lack of the sales, Peter Moore and Bruce Kilgore were off the Jordan line, and Jordan himself just wasn't very happy with the Nike deal and the previous iterations, and he was thinking about leaving Nike. So he hired Tinker Hatfield for the next Jordan that we're cutting apart, the Jordan 3. And since then, they've been doing re-releases and retros, starting in 94. In 96, they're worn by Bill Murray in Space Jam. In 2008, they collaborated with Eminem. And then more recent years, there's been collabs with a lot of other brands like Union and all of these brands. And this specific shoe that we're cutting apart is from the 2014 release, and that's what we're gonna be cutting apart, and to see what about this shoe people didn't like, the construction, how it's built, what the leather quality is, if it still lives up to the Italian-made idea of this premium sneaker that it was originally supposed to be. Next, let's go over to the leather quality, but before we talk about the quality, we need to figure out which of these panels is actual real leather and which is fake, because Nike is really good at hiding fake leather in places you wouldn't expect it. So first, let's start with this bumper panel that wraps all the way around the toe, and put it to the flame, see if it's real leather or not. And we just started doing a leather grading system to see if we can standardize some of these results that we find. So it didn't melt and burn kind of like the Air Force 1s do, so it maybe doesn't have as much of a heavy polyurethane coating, but you can see that top coat just kind of flakes off. But it is real leather because you can see the little leather fibers underneath that top coat that we just burned off. What about this fake iguana leather? This is the one where I have some doubts about, so we'll give this a little burn test. Same thing, it's actually real leather underneath. So next to this vamp panel, let's see if this is real leather. And I think it is, because I can kind of see, ooh, there's a flame. Jeez, going big on this one. Whoa. So we got that almost nearly exploded. Let's scratch this off. And there's leather underneath that as well. So far, 3 for 3 on leather panels. Okay, now to this panel that I'm concerned about. Leather underneath. So, all these major panels are leather. I thought for sure they'd sneak some fake leather in here. So, props to Nike for not sneaking fake leather in this thing, because they easily could have, especially in this panel where there's no cross section to be seen. So next, let's pop a few of these stitches and we'll get a caliper in there, see how thick it is, and also be able to see a cross section to see where in that cross section of leather this lies, so we can put it on our newly established grading system. About 1.5, 1.6. So pretty standard thickness for Nike leather. Nothing too thin, but nothing too thick. That was the surprising thing about the Jordan 1 85s we did. Everyone claims they're way thick leather, high quality, but it was just Air Force One leather. And this seems about in that same standard. So then if we grade this leather on our newly established Rose & Anvil standardized leather grading system, but if we look really closely at the cross section, you can see that there is a little bit of that grain at the top. That's that really smooth, that really tightly packed fiber layer at the top of leather that most people associate with the really smooth, high quality leather. But the problem is, as we saw, there's a really heavy polyurethane coating on top that disguises this leather as a better leather than what it actually is, and it has that fake print embossed into it. And it's somewhat excusable in the fake iguana leather because they're imitating a different type of leather. But with this, the rest of the leather, it's just a fake print on top. So to me, that's pretty clearly a C grade leather, and that's pretty standard for Nike. But what's interesting about this sneaker is, like I mentioned earlier, it was designed originally to be a premium sneaker with Italian leather, an Italian made construction. And so you would hope that when they retroed these and brought these back, that they would try to make it out of a better leather or have it maybe made in Italy. Like, everyone thinks Italy is so expensive to have shoes made, but they're not that expensive. So it's kind of a bummer they didn't use a higher quality leather, but it is what it is. And there's also some misconceptions about Italian tanned leather. Not everything from Italy is perfect grade leather, like S tier leather. They have just as much garbage leather as any other country that manufactures leather. But there's a little bit of mystique around Italian leather. So what do we even mean by like a really high quality Italian leather? Well, generally most Italian made sneakers and shoes are going to come with a B or A grade leather, where you don't have as much of a heavy plastic coating on top. You have more of a pigment on top, and it's a more natural leather. They're not trying to hide as much of the natural characteristics of the leather, because obviously this looks really plasticky. If you look at this shoe, it doesn't look like it came from the skin of an animal. It looks like it's made in a factory, because it basically is. The top coat's just plastic. So next we wanted to test the air unit, because if you pull this insole out, whoa, you can see that there's an air unit in there. It's right underneath that lasting board. And usually I feel like most of the shoes we've cut apart, there's a layer of foam over top of that, but you can see right into that air unit. And we did this test before I started filming. We took our little tire pressure gauge and pierced it from the outsole in, because usually the rubber seals that little needle really well and you can get a pretty decent reading, but nothing happened. We didn't even hear a hiss. We didn't see a blip on the little dial at all. So then we were like, well, maybe we didn't puncture it deep enough. Let's go to the inside. Tried it again. Still no pop, no hiss, no reading. So then we went to the other shoe, but this time instead of going from the outsole in, we went from the insole in, and still no reading. So I don't know if there's just no air pressure in these air units on the Jordan 2s, because we've seen a pretty heavy or pretty decent PSI in some of these other Jordans. Like when we did the 85s, there's like almost 11 or 12 PSI, but these, it was either popped or there's just no PSI in them, which it could just be, it's just as likely either way. Like I could see Nike not putting anything more than like 2 or 3 PSI in this air unit, and I could also see them just having popped. So next we wanted to test the eyelets on this shoe, because you've got these little plastic ones right here. And as you look at the Jordan line, you can see how these plastic eyelets slowly progressed into some of the later versions of the eyelets. I think they're a pretty cool touch, but I'd be worried that they're gonna break and shatter. And so I'm just gonna grab a pair of pliers to see if I can even just shatter one of these before we do the pulling test on it. Let's see if this is a brittle plastic or if it's pretty strong. So I'm just gonna give this a little twist, see if we can break it. So looks like it's fairly flexible, at least. So if I'm bending this back and forth, it's not just gonna shatter. So that's good to see. So now let's run the test to see how many pounds it takes to pull one of these eyelets out or to break that eyelet. So as you saw, the plastic eyelets held up pretty well, but not quite as good as the other eyelets, which makes sense because you know, you got to pull through all this leather versus just the stitching or the plastic on the top of these plastic eyelets. But held up well enough that I wouldn't have any concerns about it. And one thing I noticed while I was burning this is how much this midsole and outsole started separating away from the upper when I was burning it. And I think that's because this is mostly a foam outsole. Like if I take this knife and just cut a little part of that outsole off, I'm pretty sure it's not a full rubber cupsole. But you can see, now that I got that cut, it is almost like a rubber foam. It's not quite as soft as some of the other foams that we've cut apart. It's a 2-compound cupsole where this white layer is a foam and the darker colors on the outsole is rubber. Part of the problem with that, and I think a lot of the issues they had with comparing the two shoes, the Jordan 1s, the Jordan 2s, was the Jordan 1s is a full rubber cupsole, which doesn't experience hydrolysis, whereas the Jordan 2s, because it's a foam, it's more susceptible to hydrolysis, where basically moisture in the air gets trapped in the little teeny microscopic air bubbles in the foam, which cause it to slowly degrade and fall apart and become almost sticky and gooey. And over a few years, your shoes can completely be ruined. And the only way to really combat that is to wear the sneakers, which is super counterintuitive to sneaker culture where people don't want to wear the shoes. But if you really want to maintain foam in your shoes, you got to wear them. Otherwise, they just fall apart. And rubber can do the same thing, and same with leather. Basically, anything you let sit, it's the same as cars. If you let a car sit for 15 years, rather than run it every few days for 15 years, the car, even though it has way more miles because you've been running it every day, it's gonna be a lot better shape than a car that just sits for 15 years. Same thing with sneakers. And one thing we forgot to do is test this back panel, because there's one panel I know for sure is not real leather, and it's this back panel with the Nike. So let's burn this just to have something to complain about with the leather. So why do people hate the Jordan 2? Because it looks similar to the Jordan 1, but also a completely different shoe. You know, it's like, it is definitely more chunky. It's a lot, allegedly the midsole's a lot thicker and it had a lot more foam in it. And just generally, it's not quite as sleek of a shoe. You know, it seems like they tried to take this pattern and make it more futuristic, more sleek, less hard angles and more flowy angles. And it just looks like a stepping stone towards the future iterations of the Jordans. It didn't add any new features or advantages to the sneaker other than how it looked, and the concept of it having been this Italian-made sneaker with premium materials, it just didn't get pulled off the right way. And so I think that's why people hate the design of the Jordan 2s, but that only means so much because everyone's opinions are super subjective. So to really see why people hate the shoe, let's cut it in half and see what's on the inside. All right, I got it cut in half, so let's see what's inside the most hated Jordan and see if we can identify why people hate this shoe. So let's see what's inside it. This shoe is weird because the original Jordan 2 had very similar air unit to the Jordan 1s. And it was supposed to be just an air unit in the heel, but this version that we got, the retro version, has a nearly full-length air unit. So it's hard to really know what that means and why they switched to the full-length air unit. I don't know if they had some extra parts laying around that they need to throw into a shoe. And on the subject of the air units, after recording this video, Caulin stopped by and was talking about the shoes and everything, and he noticed that the air unit in these Jordan 2s is the exact same air unit in the Nike Monarchs, the Air Monarchs, which is pretty hilarious and probably why we didn't get a reading on either of these shoes with the PSI test. But kind of funny that Jordan 2 has the most dad shoe air unit in there. Thought that was kind of cool. But it is an interesting construction because if you look at it compared to the regular Jordan 1s, whether it's the mids, the 85s, or the shattered backboards, they are completely different shoes. And even if it did have the shorter air unit, it is still a very different shoe. And I think Jordan complained about the fact that he couldn't feel the cork underneath of his foot. And that's because there's 3/4 of an inch of foam underneath your foot. And it's pretty dense foam because even from the outside, I didn't know right off the bat that this was a foam sidewall. I thought it was rubber because it's so dense. So we put the durometer tester on there, comes in at a 40 compared to, see that's the difference. You can't really even take a really accurate measurement on these Jordan 1s because there's so little foam in them. So the 85s, 27. So if you're used to playing in a slimmer outsole like the Jordan 1s, and then you move to this thick of an outsole, it's a very different feel when you're playing basketball. Other than that though, they're not that different, especially if you looked at the originals with the smaller air unit. They really just increased the amount of foam on the inside. They made it a little bit more soft, the different design. So there's really not that big of a difference construction-wise, material-wise. So I think what it really comes down to is people just didn't like the Jordan 2 because of how it looked. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how durable a shoe is, it doesn't matter how perfectly it performs for what it was designed for. If it doesn't look good, nobody wants it. And it's that whole debate of form versus function and function versus form. No matter what, there's always a little bit of an interplay between the two that's like, you gotta find compromises, because if you look at the bunny boot that we did, the bunny boot's the warmest boot in the entire world. You don't see anyone out there wearing them because they're the ugliest boots in the entire world. But it's the same with sneakers too. Like you could probably design the perfect basketball shoe and it would look horrendous and nobody would buy it, because at the end of the day, most people are buying sneakers not because of the quality, but because of how they look. And quality is usually just a little extra that helps them justify the price of the sneaker. And where these were originally released for almost twice the price of the Jordan 1s, I can see how people would be like, yeah, it's nicer quality. You've got some broguing on the side and it's Italian-made Italian leather, but it's ugly and I don't want it. And so I think that's why people hated the Jordan 1. But in an era where, in a post-dad shoe era where ugly is good, it seems like these are on the rise because they're kind of ugly. It seems like when everything else is cool, the next thing that's cool is whatever's not cool. And so I think Nike's spot on with having these, doing some collabs, because I wouldn't be surprised if they got really popular with the right collabs, but also I could see them flopping because they are kind of ugly. So let me know what you guys think and what your experiences are in your Jordan 2s, if you even have any, and let us know what else you want us to do for Jordan July. I think we have like 3 or 4 spots left, so let us know what you want us to cut apart, because I've really enjoyed just looking already at the lineage of how these shoes have slowly changed and transformed over time. It's really interesting. So thank you guys for everything you do, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, because subscriber count is the only number that sponsors care about, and the sponsors are what allows us to buy stupidly expensive sneakers, to really find out some of these truths about what you're spending your hard-earned money on, and start debunking some hype and maybe reinforcing some of the other hype. So thank you guys. See ya.